Welcome, it's BB Ed here. It's the 7th of June 2024, and I'm here to bring a second message to you about the country of New Zealand. Some of you will have seen the previous video, which I only put out about a week and a half ago, which was a very sobering message about New Zealand that was entitled God's Lament for New Zealand. And I didn't expect anything more. And then the Lord began to give me some other issues that He wants to raise about New Zealand in this last week. And He has asked me to bring the second video. So here I am. But He wanted me to say these words. This is what He spoke to me on the 30th of May. Be excited, New Zealand. He doesn't want us to be so sober about the last message that we forget the Garden of Eden that He has given us. He actually used the word Eden. And he spoke to me about an area in the North Island called Tarafanui. And it is a regional park, and it's got stunning beaches, beautiful farmland, an ecological sanctuary, and it is beautiful. And he used that as an example of the perfect gifts He has given us. And we all have those areas in our own countries, don't we, that are just stunning. In James 1:17 it says, every good gift and every good perfect present comes from God, the creator of the heavenly lights. So we need to celebrate that. Yes, we have some problems, and I am going to bring three main points that He has mentioned in this last week. So the 23rd of May, He spoke to me these two words, gangs and the affiliated, those who are officially connected to the gangs. And here's an image of just a few of the patches from the various gangs, and I'll be talking about that shortly. But the Lord acknowledged that there is a problem all around the world. He actually used the term intercontinental. And He pointed out that He knows that New Zealand works really hard to deal with our own problems associated with this particular country's issues. And then the Holy Spirit said these words, His righteous eye. In Proverbs 15:3 it says, the eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. The Lord said, it's a problem that must be paid and worked out. And I thought it was interesting that He used paid. And it can mean financial profit and the exchange of money, but it can also mean to compensate or yielding a gain, or that there's nothing owed anymore, it's paid out. So He said once again, it must be paid and worked out. And then He said, they think they are going to deal with it. The new coalition government in New Zealand are determined to deal with the gang-related issues in New Zealand. They are intending to ban gang patches in public places and to engage a special police unit to enforce the laws surrounding gang behaviours. The Lord said that He would be there holding out wet ones, which are wet wipes that we use every day to clean up mess. You'll know what I mean, I'm sure. He said He would be there to hold out the wet ones to us. I'm assuming that He's thinking this is going to be a bit of a mess. He said it goes back a long time. Blue coats. And I thought, what are blue coats? So I had to do some research and found out that that can often refer to people who wear uniform like the police and the army. Could this be historical clashes between the gangs and the police over the years? Often this creates hurt, prejudice, anxiety in any issues related to coming together, the police and the gangs. But you might feel a bit concerned about that, but the Lord said this, the next cycle, it's exciting. So we're going to have to watch this space. I believe he's talking about the government here when he said, they think they can put this in a little box. That bothers me. They land the same. And I believe that possibly means it will work out the same either way. And now I'm going to move on to the next subject. And it's there's three specific subjects. So this next subject is looking at the social services in New Zealand for the vulnerable. And the Lord has been painting a picture of a lack of accountability and justice in this area. Once again, the Lord said to me, God loses focus. He loses focus, the focus of the New Zealand people. He wants our focus so that he can start to help us deal with these issues. I actually mentioned that same statement that he spoke prior in the last video. So it really is an issue. But before I do this, we're talking about accountability and justice for those who are vulnerable in New Zealand. The children, the poor, the homeless. And I thought it would be good to read Isaiah 58, 6-8, which says, "The kind of fasting I want is this: remove the chains of oppression and the yoke of injustice, and let the oppressed go free. Share your food with the hungry and open your homes to the homeless poor. Give clothes to those who have nothing to wear, and do not refuse to help your own relatives." Justice, the Lord said. And on the 24th of the 5th, he said, hot meals from last year, I think we need them all back. And what he's referring to there is this new New Zealand government, and I'm not wanting to stand on any particular side here politically, but this current New Zealand government, which it's a coalition of three parties, they have, as a money-saving initiative, decided to remove the hot meals for the children in schools as a way of saving money, of course, and I think they're going to replace these with like cold cut lunches. And the Lord is saying hot meals from last year, they need to have them all back. So, he realises that feeding the children at this point in time in New Zealand when we are in recession is important. And he highlighted some very interesting things. He said that the people in the social services, and he actually gave me a couple of examples, which I'm not going to actually state, but there are people in our social services that are keeping power and information to themselves. Those were his words. And this is a paraphrase of his words. The second thing he said is that they're making excuses for not getting important work done. Nothing's happening, he said. And then, interestingly, in the last month or so, he's been giving me the names of organisations that he terms are a checklist of the shining. Those that are shining examples of good running foundations that are supporting the vulnerable in society, not just in New Zealand, but all around the world. I've had to look these places up because I've never heard of them. He mentioned a Mount Cuba Foundation in America and a Linden Foundation. He mentioned a woman called Melissa Perry, and when I looked her up, I found actually, interestingly enough, 2 women with that name in Australia who work in very high-profile positions. One of them is an administration of justice and advocacy and protection of the vulnerable. She's a CEO of a group called Communicare, and she is also the chairperson of Landgate in Australia. I also found a Melissa Perry, who is a federal court judge in Australia, and she was speaking in some very interesting papers about cultural diversity and inclusion of minority groups. So these are powerful examples of people in the community that are doing good work. I just want to share that because I believe he's trying to say that people in these positions have such a lot of responsibility, and he has his righteous eye on us, And we can just do so much of God's work by applying ourselves appropriately, being accountable, ensuring there is justice in society. Be proud of your positions, whatever they are in the community, because you have such good work to do. And finally, everyone, the last issue that he brought up was racism. And then he said these words. He spoke that word racism on the 30th of May 2024, so only a week ago, and he said, "Would you like to know where to go? Straight up, mend." And I felt to read this verse from Acts 17:26, which says, "From one human being, Adam, he created all races of people." So when we break it down, when we look at it from the beginning of creation, when God created Adam and Eve, we all descend from that one man, Adam, and yet we struggle to get along. He said this, Lima's song, "It's just so beautiful." Now, everyone, I looked for the song, Lima's song, and I couldn't actually find it. If anybody can find it, I'd love to know about it. He said it's so beautiful. But I looked up the name Lima, and do you know what it means? Cultural. And we're looking at racism and cultures, are we not? To mend and heal, he said, the process needs to be peaceful and sensitive to damage. Those were his words. And in Matthew 5:9 it says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God." God is in the business of mending and healing. In Psalm 147:3 it says, "God heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." God said this, "We are going to see all these traded principles. We may not get there on the moon, but I'm going to get it to the airport," he said. So it's not going to be something we can solve straight off, but he's going to make a start. He's going to get us to the airport, New Zealand. Healing racism. It's God's heart to see healing in this area. So in summary, we've considered three main issues that the Holy Spirit has raised: gangs, accountability in social services, and racism. They're all important issues for New Zealand and for God. He wants to see changes. What are the traded principles that the Lord spoke of? Micah 6:8 says, "What does God require of you? To do justly." He spoke of justice to us. To show love, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. So we are to do justly, to love mercy, so that's forgiveness, and to walk humbly with our God. The healing and mending will only be possible if people are prepared to show justice, mercy, loving kindness, diligence to the service of others, mutual respect of all cultures and people. I was reminded of a statement that God spoke on the 23rd of May. He was thinking about these things and he said this, "I was thinking about it last night and it's all about love." And there are two stories that come to mind that reflect God's kind of love: the Good Samaritan story and the death of his son Jesus. In John 15:12 and 13 it says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another." That you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. The Good Samaritan showed selfless love to an injured stranger on the road. And Jesus showed great love when he died for all mankind, despite the fact that they had rejected him. They'd rejected the existence of God and walked out sinful lives. Despite the ridicule and the beatings, the injustice of his sentence, he took the sins of all mankind on the cross of Calvary and died in our place. It is indeed all about love. Can we do it, New Zealand? Let's dig deep in ourselves. Bye for now.